Hey, Von community, it's Friday. Going to do a quick video, a review of a long forgotten, what some people call classic. And that's what we're going to find out today. Is it a classic or is it just our romanticism, many decades later, that we tend to believe that these ambitious records from some of our heroes were better than they really should have been considered. Initially, the record was not considered great. The reception was kind of lukewarm, and the internal friction within the band because of the first single that was supposed to come off the record, caused the band to disband for a while. They obviously got back together to go to great heights during the disco era and some more pop tunes later on after this. This was their sixth studio album. It's their first and only studio double album, ODESSA. This is the original gold flock. It's a velvet type of texture with gold lettering. As you can see, ODESSA, Bee Gees up here is stereo, and the echo. This is actually a cutout. And here's the simple gatefold. Just has simple credits, song titles, times. It indicated that all tunes were written by the brothers Gibb, produced by Robert Stigwood, has the engineer. And what it depicts is a scene from the fictional British ship called Veronica. And this ship apparently, or supposedly in 1899, hit an iceberg, was sinking, and here you could see the survivors in a life raft catching a child that was being thrown off the deck by either the parents or the crew. It was women and children first back then. And it was a very ambitious project. It was considered a concept album. The commercials for it, which are on YouTube, it's on one of my shorts, were very elaborate, indicating that this is the biggest, most exciting, ambitious record ever to be released. The announcer has all the furor in his voice of a promo for a movie, for a epic movie, and it's really fascinating. But this was basically received lukewarm reception. I'm going to read from some of my notes. I did a lot of research. I listened to it a few times since I pulled it for this review. And like I indicated, the ship that's involved here is Veronica. ODESSA is maybe the captain's girlfriend or a crew member's girlfriend that he's thinking about as the ship is going down. And from what I read, the tracks, I believe 17 tracks, were memories or thoughts that were provoked by the imminent death of the crew and the passengers, and that's what I got. Unfortunately, one of the big issues lacking in this, that the lyric sheet wasn't included. Now, I did extensive research. I could not find anywhere that indicated there was a lyric research in the original, because I'm not sure if I just picked this up used and it didn't have the lyric sheet was missing. Here's the albums itself, and these are ATCO sleeves. The CL ATCO was also released on Polydor in the UK, and I believe on Polydor in the US. And here's a older ATCO's inner, which I pulled for this video. And here's album 1. And it's interesting because in this era, it was the albums were sequenced 1 and 2, not 1 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 4 to fit on a changer. So this was a modern label here. I'm not sure what pressing this is. It sounds pretty good. The sound stage is good. The instruments all have kind of air. It's not the best. It's not the best sounding record. Most of my records from that time period are not the best sounding records. I would love to get a UK Polydor, and I'm going to try to do that to actually do a shootout myself. but I'm going to read from some of my notes here. This was the 6th studio LP released by the Bee Gees on March 30th, 1969. Was not well received, but it's considered their most significant and ambitious 60s LP. And that's where I said the romanticism comes in, because I wasn't real thoroughly impressed with this. The track layout was kind of random, a lot of orchestrations. It had some country, some waltz, some pop. The harmonies, of course, were outstanding. It's the Bee Gees. The hit single on this was The 1st of May, and that reached number 6 in the UK, and it only reached number 37 in the US. The original title was An American Opera and Masterpiece, and that morphed it into ODESSA. And I don't believe that this is a masterpiece. It is a very strong effort. If you think about it, Barry was 23 years old when this was done, and his twin brothers, Maurice and Robin, were only 20. Now, I didn't accomplish anything at 20 that was considered greatness, and not too many of us have. The artists have. There's a gift from God that they have. They could do these things. The Beach Boys, Beatles, Stevie Wonder, Elvis. It goes on and on. Any artist that we all love in the vinyl community, it goes on and on. But for them to have this concept, to fulfill it and have it produced by Robert Stigwood, that's an accomplishment. And like I said, originally released on Polydor in the UK, ACO in the US. Due to the high cost of production of the flock, which is what it's called, with the gold lettering on this velvet, assembly workers were allergic during the process in the factory, and they were getting sick. So that called for a discontinued of this material. And I'm not sure if that's true. It does have an allergic. I did research, and the flocking actually does cause allergic reaction in certain folks. I'm sure they wore masks. I'm also thinking that the high cost of production was a factor, and the lack of huge sales was a factor. As this is a cutout, which means it didn't sell at list price, and it was being discounted for the retailer. Now, this record's strong record. It's a strong record for its ambitious. It was considered the 1,001 albums you must hear before you die. So if you don't want to buy it, you can listen to it on YouTube, and you'll be happy when you die. There was also a Rhino release 3 CD set in 2009 that has a mono, alternate takes, and a stereo mix. And they said there's not much difference between the mono mix and the stereo mix. And I'll go over some of the tracks with you. I think the record was too long, and Barry Gibb also thinks it was too long. It definitely needed a lyric sheet so that you could follow. And I'm not sure, again, if there was a lyric sheet originally released with this, but through all my research, I looked it up. I looked up records for sale, vintage records for sale, and I did not find a lyric sheet. I'm sure the 3-record CD may have lyric sheets. The lyrics are online, and you could read the lyrics as you go along or print them out, but it didn't need that. And like I said, they were so young. They were only 23 and 20. The twins were 20. This came out. This was considered an opera by Barry, and that's why he called it an American opera. I don't know why it was an American opera, unless the passengers on the ship were American. We don't know. Really don't know those details. But it was released 2 months before Tommy, and Tommy, of course, just what did Tommy sell? 20 million copies, and it's been reissued, and it's just a great record. It actually blows this away in my mind. And this was released a year or so after the Beatles double album, which was the Beatles, which is called the White Album. So it has that chronological thing going on. Now, it's not as good as this album, which I really love. And this has How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? So it has a really big hit that will help sales. And here's the inner on this. And here again, this was only a few years later, maybe 1971. So they were still relatively young, 22, 25 or so. And what's interesting, the only record to be of this album to be produced on the greatest hits, which is the 1st of May, and that's the first Bee Gees. This is on Echo. This was released in '69, so probably soon after this album. And this is original Echo. Excuse me 1 second. We don't want to have any copyright problems with eBay for the Bond theme. It's my phone. So sorry about that, but I'm losing it. I was going to silence that. It happens a few times. So anyway, this is a nice album to pick up if you like the early Bee Gees are great, and I'm going to talk about the early Bee Gees, and then I'm going to go into some of the disco. Now there's nothing on Volume 2 from this album. This is Greatest Hits Volume 2, Best of. There's nothing on Bee Gees Gold from this album at all. Okay, and there's nothing on The Living Years, which is a live record of the Bee Gees, or a later pressing, but there's nothing on here. The gatefold. So they even knew there was not a lot of great things coming from that. It was only one single, and the single didn't drive the record sales, obviously. But now it's considered something that you have to hear. It is a stunning record, but I don't believe, as some reviewers say, it's their Sgt. Pepper. To say it's their Sgt. Pepper, it's not even their. It's not their Revolver. It's not their Rubber Soul. It's not their Her Majesty's Request by the Stones, but it does have that vibe to it. It does have that ambition, and it does have trying to break grounds. Like I said, there's waltz in this, there's bluegrass, there's banjo, and I'm going to go over some of the tracks real quick here. But I think this album was just a little late to the party. The orchestrations and things at '69 was starting to wear out. You know, we had Moody Blues. We had some, Deep Purple did some things with orchestras. We had the lush strings. And I think when this came out around the time, of course, Tommy is the exception. It's an anomaly to the rule. So just throw that out. Whatever Tommy did can do no wrong. It's Thomas. But I think they were kind of late here. And as we were getting more into a stripped down, unproduced record as the band, Blonde on Blonde, Dylan, this fell out of favor. I believe, at least in the States, that's what I said. That's what I think. So let me see here. They actually later on, the Bee Gees, or I think it was Maurice, wanted to do this record live with guest artists, which would have been cool. That never happened. You know, they were really proud of this record. And like I said, it's a very ambitious and conceptually very imaginative for kids that age, young men that age. And they thought it was kind of convoluted. It was the material didn't live up to a double album. They wanted a single album, the boys, but Robert Stigwood wanted a double album. Maybe because of the success of the White Album. I'm not sure what other albums in 68 or 60, early 69 were released, but Stigwood wanted a double album. And one of the notes said that a double album means more money for everyone but the artists. So, and some of the moods that this invoked in some of the reviews were dramatic, epic, wistful, romantic, theatrical, lush, poignant, melancholy, and it does invoke those feelings. That's definitely true. Just to do a quick lineup was Vince Maloney, that's the lead guitar, and he actually did 8 records on the record, and he left the band. He was with the band since their inception, when they were the young boys from Australia. And Colin Peterson drums. Bill Keith played banjo on Marley Port, Give Best, and he was Neil Young's banjo player on a lot of records. Tex Logan on fiddle, Give Your Best. Paul Buckmaster on cello, on Odessa, the theme. And he also produced and arranged for Elton John. You always see him. I think I've also seen him on Nielsen albums. Harry Nilsson. Adrian Barber was the sound engineer. Stigwood, of course, produced it. And we have a Barry Gibb lead, harmony, background vocals, rhythm guitar, Barry Gibb, Hammond organ, piano, mellotron, Maurice, bass, rhythm, and lead guitar, piano, mellotron, lead vocals on Melody Fair. So most of the lead vocals were Barry. The harmonies are really nice. They're lush. Like I said, the record's kind of all over the place. It doesn't have a flow to it. And I don't know if it was marketed properly at the time. Like I said, there was an ambitious initial marketing, which is on one of my short videos. You could actually hear a clip of that. And let me see here. What else? Odessa is, like I said, the girlfriend or the sweetheart of one of the passengers or crew members going down. And side 1, you have Odessa, You'll Never See My Face Again, Black Diamond, has a nice vibe to it. It's a poppy tune. It has a rhythm guitar, really a down-strutting rhythm guitar. I don't hear a lot of lead electric guitars in this. And there's a song, track 3 on side 1, which is, let me just double check that here. Black Diamond, which I like. Whisper Whisper is excellent. Edison is a strange tune about Thomas Edison. That was originally called Barbara. Let me see. The hit single or quasi-hit single is on side 4. That's the track. Lamplight's interesting, reminiscent of one of the guys that met their sweetheart under a lamplight. It's that type of, it invokes those type of memories. A lot of orchestration, very majestic, full lush sound. There's also one called Give Your Best, which is a square dance, country square dance. And I think they may have gotten country influence maybe from Let It Bleed, some of these Stones, that Stones era. Some of the tracks actually remind me of Jagger's vocals. Let me see. The guitar is very simple chords, maybe 1 or 2, 3 chords. The one track, 7 Seas Symphony. The chord changes in the instrumental piano remind me of tunes on McCartney's Back to the Egg, which is one of my favorite Paul McCartney and Wings album, Back to the Egg. A very forceful piano, which was Paul playing. Here we have the Gibb brothers playing, but it reminds me of that. Maybe Paul heard this album and was influenced by the piano chords on this. But it has an overall lush arrangement. Like I said, I'm not crazy about it. I don't consider it a Sgt. Pepper. I don't consider it a Quadrophenia. And I don't. They were even compared with the Moody Blues, and I think the Moody Blues were just more concise. They had more writers. we had Barry, and Barry, I think, did the main writing, and the boys got credited for it. The Moody Blues had a more cohesive group. They may have been older. They were from different bands, and more mature. I mean, at the time. So I don't think there's any really good comparisons. It's definitely an album you should listen to before you die. ODESSA. It's a far cry from when the Bee Gees went to this one, which is main course, Nights on Broadway, Jive Talkin', which started their disco dance craze. This is just a great album, and it led to the mega hit, the tunes that they wrote for the soundtrack of Saturday Night Fever. So problems arose, the stress from this album, the stress from picking a hit record or a single caused the band to disband. If the group to disband for a while, they got back together. Obviously, came up with this great album and many albums after that. So this is their forgotten classic, a classic that never was a classic, if I may say so. So give it a listen. Like I said, it's well produced, has a lot. I don't consider it a Sgt. Pepper, but people compare it. I think they compare it maybe, but not listening to it with that in mind. Just that it's very ambitious, as the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper was very ambitious. But check it out, and I would definitely recommend, if you do check it out, get a copy of the lyrics, and that would really help you enjoy this. It's supposed to unfold like a film, but I think the selections could have been arranged better, and that's what some of the criticisms from other folks that have reviewed it. So overall, I give it definitely needs a listen. And that's ODESSA by the Bee Gees, 1969. Not too many people have heard this. They all know the Bee Gees from Saturday Night Fever, but us older folks know the Bee Gees were one of the greatest, pop bands come out of Australia, the UK, that whole neck of the woods there. So, and now for my segment that I do normally after one of my specific segments, is an OG pressing that I believe sounds really good, has audiophile properties, and highly recommend it. And that's this record up here. Linda Ronstadt, Simple Dreams. This is fantastic. It's been reissued, but this is the original from 77, Asylum, Electra. It's So Easy, Carmelita, Simple Man, Simple Dream, Sorrow Lives Here, I'll Never Marry, Blue Bayou, Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, Maybe I'm Right, great version of the Stones, Exiles, Tumbling Dice, and Old Paint. And here you have a gatefold. And we have a nice inner with the lyrics. Great photo of Linda. I hope she's feeling well. I hope she's doing better. But this is just fantastic. It's a go-to record for me, as most of her later records, later I mean in the 70s, mid-70s, early 80s, all sound great. This is considered OG pressing. If you pick this up pretty inexpensively, probably under $10, you don't really need to buy the reissue. This is just as good. If you love it and you want to hear a different press, feel free. It's up to you. Well, it's not really necessary. It has the hit, Poor, 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 Pitiful Me, Blue Bayou, It's So Easy. It's just fantastic, and it's produced by Peter Ashner. So, and we have some great photos of Linda in her dressing room here in the gatefold. So that's it. ODESSA, a forgotten classic. If you like these, it was a very difficult album for me to review. It wasn't my cup of tea. I expected more after reading reviews that it's a Sgt. Pepper, it's a Pet Sounds. I didn't get that, but I give them a lot of credit. They were young guys, in their early 20s. They were under a lot of stress to get a double album out, which they wanted to do a single album. Last time the original band was intact because their guitar player since their early days left. But I give them a lot of credit. An album is something that you should hear, just not just not a top 5 album for me. So if you like this segment, which I'm calling Forgotten Classics, I'll be doing more of these. I'm going to try to go through my collection and pick out things that I think people have forgotten about. So that's it. Keep rocking. Tony's LPSRUS out. And if you like, subscribe. We're trying to get the channel going. And if you have any comments, and if I left things out about this record, I apologize. I know the BG fan club people love this record, and I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I think it's a great album, and I think you should definitely give it a try. If you don't want to buy it, most of the tracks are available online, and you could probably pick up a used copy of this. Maybe not the Velvet, but a used copy online relatively inexpensively. Okay, that's it. Keep rocking. And we'll see you soon at our next video. Ciao.